Good afternoon, everyone. It's promptly 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter for today. We're going to work together for the next 20 minutes or so, talking about making corrections and reversals to accounting transactions. If you've never attended one of the webinar events before, you can use the little red sidebar on the top of the control panel there to minimize the control bar there, or the taskbar. Get that out of your way. If you have a single monitor setup or if you have a dual monitors, you can just drag that window off to the second desktop just to get it out of your way and get the full visual presentation of the event today. As we do with all of our webinar events, well, most of them, we are recording this event today, and therefore we're going to have it out on our YouTube channel here between now and Friday of this week. So just an FYI, if you need to revisit this topic, a recording of it will be available on the YouTube channel by the end of the week. We're here to talk about, again, correcting accounting transactions or reversing, correcting mistakes, essentially. And we're going to show you some new features in there. The workbook that we're working out of today is A202, Accounting 202. If I'm not mistaken, I think, depending on the workbook you're working with, it's going to be right around page 30 to 36, I think, or 37. And that's what I'm using as the material for the basis for our webinar event today. Our current version of Church Windows is 1916. If at any point during the webinar event you've seen what you came to see, please, you're welcome to leave the webinar at any time. Thank you in advance for attending. So right here I should have drawn that's not a badly drawn arrow here that's pointing down to our version number here. Some of you may have this, some of you may not. That, however, is the current version of Church Windows. If you have questions or you didn't receive the email from us with that link to that and you're on support, please call us. We're happy to get that resent out for you. Okay, so let's go into accounting, because again, we're talking about accounting corrections today. And if you have questions, of course, please type those in the questions portion of the control panel. I'll certainly do my best to keep an eye on that. It is just me today, so I will be the one answering your questions. I don't have anybody helping me with those today, so please be kind. I will get to your questions eventually. There are times when, of course, we make mistakes in accounting. You know, we're human, and mistakes happen, and we need to be able to fix those. And accounting offers numerous options to be able to try to fix those mistakes. Now, it is based on the type of transactions that we're posting, but sometimes there are transactions that we enter that don't need to be there, so we need to reverse those. Otherwise, other times there are transactions which we go in and we make a mistake, we enter the wrong date on it, or we choose the wrong account, we enter the wrong amount, and we simply need to correct it to fix our books. And we're going to talk about all of those today, okay? First of all, on our first page of our topic here, it talks about making a correction that does not require a reversal. Okay, there's an audit trail that Church Windows Accounting, or Church Windows, the software, is now trying to protect as much as possible. And so in these cases, for corrections that don't require a reversal, we've determined that the changes that we're making do not impact the audit trail on the software, and therefore it will not reverse the transaction. It'll just save the corrections you make to that. Okay, so an example of that would be, let's say we've got an income posting transaction that we've made that we neglected to enter the check number on. Okay, so when we go into transactions and browse in the upper left corner, and it opens our transaction browser options, browse transactions window, you can either scroll down and visually find the transaction, but boy, oh boy, when you've got hundreds, perhaps even thousands of entries in here, it could take a long time. So I'm in favor of using and going up to the change year, filter, and sort, and using that to find, at least narrow down the transactions that I'm searching for. So when we click change year, filter, and sort, it opens up our transaction browser options. So in this case, I don't know the transaction number, and I don't know when it occurred or the amount, so I'm just going to narrow it down to this particular type of transaction. So I click Clear All, choose just Income, and click OK. I can even go so far as to go, okay, I want to show my reconciled or unreconciled transactions, or enter a date range. Anything I know about it, it'll help me. But I'm going to just leave it as Income and click OK. So what I know to be true about the transaction is it was something that happened earlier in the year, and we're going to say, okay, we've got this rental income transaction on February 25th, or I'm sorry, our rental income on January 4th that we no, I'm sorry, the rental income on February 25th that did not have a check number entered. It says check over here under payment method, but we didn't enter that. So we're going to highlight one line of the transaction, number 58. It doesn't matter which side, the debit or the credit. It's all the same entry, and we simply click correct at the top. It then opens our correct income transaction screen, and here I can just click in the check or reference number or choose the payment method, type in that check number that I have or found now on there, and simply click Save Correction. Okay? And then it says your corrections have been saved. Okay? The other type of change to a particular transaction, I'm pretty sure, is payment method, check or reference number, and comments. Do not reverse the transaction and repost it. Okay? So yeah, I can enter comments. That's the one that we most commonly will, do through support, or we'll see through support, is where somebody says, "Oh, I forgot to record some some comments against my particular transaction," so we can find the entry and do the same exact thing. Let's say we've got a bill or something we neglected to choose to enter comments for. Click OK. Here's my bills. Let's say I've got something here for my rental electric or my electric bill. I similarly click correct, and right here I can edit these comments in here. Electric bill for February 2016, and I can simply click Save Correction, and again it tells me my corrections have been saved. Okay. There are times, however, though, when something else that does require maintaining the audit trail is necessary in there, and it does warrant a reversal. Okay. But before we get to that, a couple things that we want to point out. A correction no-no here is if I go back to, say, and I want to show just my reconciled transactions here. I do have some transactions reconciled for 2016. But if I come in here and I go, okay, I've got this income transaction that I want to reverse. And this is true about anything that affects our cash accounts. That if I click either correct or reverse, it's going to pop up with this dialog box that says, this transaction has been reconciled. It is not recommended that you correct a reconciled transaction. Doing so will affect a finalized bank reconciliation. Do you wish to continue? It'll still allow me to reverse it. Okay? But if it's been reconciled, why do I want to reverse it? It's affected my cash account, showed up on my bank statement. You want to heed this. If you're thinking you might have something like duplicate transactions or something, that you did, make sure that you're choosing the appropriate transaction. But if you get this message, our recommendation is going to be, don't continue with that. Again, if it was reconciled, it needs to be left in the books and should not be reversed. This is true whether I choose correct or reverse. So yeah, okay, if I click correct on this and it pops up with the message, and all I want to do is just edit, say, comments in there, I can go ahead and proceed with that. Okay? But if I'm not wanting to change something innocuous about the transaction, then I would definitely probably want to say no to this. Okay? You definitely could be messing up your bank recs, changing your reports, everything, and making things very problematic for yourself, okay, and for the church. So heed this warning. This is a correction no-no. If there is something that needs to be affected, like if I need to change the account, if I go, oh, well, my bill posted to my wrong account, okay, and it's been reconciled, I can find another way to fix the problem in the current period or in an unreconciled period without affecting the original transaction. If you have questions about this, we're simply a phone call away. Okay, I'm happy to talk through with you and ask the appropriate questions, as any of our accounting technicians will. Okay? All right. Making a correction that will require a reversal to the transaction. Okay? All right. Well, of course, if we go back to here and we just do our clear filter and we get all of our transactions back in our list, if I go, oh, well, I've got a bill in here or something that I shouldn't have in the system at all, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to choose, let's say, bills. Where are they? Oh, it doesn't matter. We don't have to do a bill. It can be anything we want. Our income posting for our love offering here. And we click reverse at the top. This is reversing a transaction by choice. So it pops up with this dialog box or this message that asks us the question, when do we want to reverse it? In this case, this was an April 11th transaction. Date occurred from original transaction date of 4/11. 9 times out of 10, folks, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to leave it as the original date. Under very rare circumstances, might I recommend to a user that they may want to choose a different date, hence why we've put this over onto this other tab called Advanced Options. Okay? Do I want to reverse the transaction of today, or do I want to do another date entirely in 2016? This became such a problem when it was all on the one tab, on one screen, that we decided to put it over on a different tab entirely because users were not necessarily understanding how this reversing transactions as of another date was working. And really, you've got to, especially if you're reversing transactions that affect your cash accounts, where I see this a lot of times is when somebody calls me and says, hey Josh, I've got this outstanding check that I'm carrying on my bank reconciliation since October of 2015. And I'm reconciled through August. I am not going to go back into that prior year and reverse that transaction. I'm not going to reverse it if it's back in August of 2016. Okay, I'm going to find another way to deal with it in the current month. Okay, bills, things like that don't necessarily affect our cash accounts, we have a little more flexibility around that. Okay, but those that do affect our cash accounts and affect our bank reconciliations, definitely 99 times out of 100, we are never going to reverse it on any date other than the original date of the transaction. Okay, so in this case, this is an income posting. It does affect a cash account. It's not reconciled. I would enter comments, and then I would simply click OK. And it would say, hey, you're permanently reversed transaction number 75, and then it'll tell us which transaction reversed that entry. Okay. If we do correct a transaction, so if say I come in here and I go, I've got this bill transaction from, let's see if I can find one further down. Transactions we can't revert or correct are things like payroll. So if we notice here, I've got a payroll transaction and I try to click it, correct, it's going to pop up and say payroll transactions must be corrected in the payroll module and transferred over to accounting again. So I can't correct those. I can reverse them, okay, but I cannot correct them. So if I click on payroll and click reverse, it pops up with a message that says reversing payroll transactions in accounting can cause discrepancies between payroll and accounting. Are you sure you want to reverse this payroll transaction? So it will let me do it. But I want to make sure that I'm aware of what I'm doing when I'm doing that. Okay? All right. So let's say we've got a recent transaction that's like an income transaction here where this $100 check was recorded in the system for the wrong amount. So I highlight my rental income transaction and I click correct. And we're going to say that that was, again, it should have been $120, not $100. And I simply click Save Corrections now. So if I change the date, either one of the accounts or the amount, it's going to reverse the entry and repost it. So I click Save Corrections. It then pops up and says your corrections required that transaction, X, Y, and Z, in this case 61, be reversed and re-entered. Then here's our new transaction number. So again, there is a record of the changes I made to the data in there that I can use for audit purposes if necessary. Okay? Reversing, the system knows when to reverse the transaction and repost it based on the changes that you're making. But if you're seeing that message about the transaction's been reconciled, folks, honestly, don't do anything to it. Because again, what will happen is, we're reversing a transaction from January that's been reconciled. All of a sudden, you see that now new transaction that shows up on our current month's bank reconciliation. You're going, well, wait a minute, why is this transaction showing up here? Well, you didn't heed the warning and you reversed it and it posted a new unreconciled transaction in the current month. Okay? Corrections, there are wonderful corrections we can do in accounting now, including our donation transactions. Now, I can't reverse the giver information over here, but if I have a transaction that I posted over from donations, then it posted to the wrong account, I can highlight it, click correct, and it'll pop up with a box that asks me, do I want to correct just the transaction comments, which would not reverse the entry, or do I want to change the accounting accounts, reverse and transfer? So if I go, oh, it posted to the wrong income account in accounting, I can choose to change accounting accounts, reverse and transfer, and it'll just basically reactivate the batch and allow me to fix the accounts and retransfer it over to post it to the correct account. So again, it says, when do I want to do this? I'm going to leave this as my original date in May. I would enter comments, click OK, permanently reverse yes, and then it tells me what was reversed, and it should now automatically open up my transfer donations to accounting with that batch there, ready for me to now choose and change whatever accounts I need to change here. So if it should have gone to my general tithes and offerings, I can change it to, say special holiday giving, and click post, and it now posts over a new transaction into accounting that's unreconciled, okay? All right. Finally, with about 4 minutes left, the other most common reason why we use the correct feature in accounting is when a user calls us on support and says, hey Josh, I go into my quick pay in pay bills, view outstanding bills, and I've got these bills sitting here that I've paid. And the first question I ask is, looking at that view outstanding bills list, we see the amount due of each bill, but what is the account balance? If the account balance is 0, then the bill was paid. Okay? All we have to do is mark it as paid. Somehow the invoice at the time we posted the payment became unchecked and left the invoice outstanding, and we don't want to leave it as outstanding. So we can fix that. We've got a movie on the marking bills as paid out on our YouTube channel now, but again, this requires a correction. So that's why we're talking about it here. Okay? So what we do is we close out of here, we go up to Transactions, Browse, right up to Change Year, Filter, and Sort, because I'm going to let the software do some work for me. I don't have to jot down those dates or those amounts. I can simply click Clear All next to my transaction types, check Just Bills, and then moving over directly to the left, I can uncheck the box labeled Show Paid, leaving Show Unpaid checked, and click OK. And there they are. There are those 4 bill transactions that I'm showing up as outstanding. The balance of the account being 0 confirms for me that each of these bills were paid. So what I can do is highlight my first one in the list, click Correct at the top. It says right here, the bill has not been marked as paid. Hopefully everybody can see that. Let me draw my highlighter around it here. Right up here, bill has not been marked as paid. So just to the right of that, I'm just going to click the button labeled Mark as Paid. Okay? Click Mark as Paid. So making a note of the date of the bill and the amount. I'm hoping I'm going to find a payment right in there, and there it is. It was part of a larger amount in February of 2016. So I'm going to highlight that payment, click OK, click Save Corrections. Your corrections have been saved. We do the same thing with the next one because it was part of that same bill. This bill was all part of one large payment to Ameritech on February 20th. Highlight the payment, click OK, Save Corrections. Notice that once these corrections have been saved, the bill list gets shorter. Why? Because it no longer meets our criteria of an unpaid or outstanding bill. So I would simply do the same thing here for my Columbia Gas bill. Highlight it, click Correct, observing the date and the amount, click Mark as Paid. Again, we're looking for a payment right around mid-February of 2016. There it is. Click OK, Save Corrections. Okay? So once this list is empty, and these are marked as paid, they'll be gone. Okay? So again, I highlight the bill, click Correct, looking for a bill right around, or a mark as paid, looking for the bill payment right around February 20th in this case, click OK, Save Corrections. Okay? Now notice that when we go back to Pay Bills, Quick Pay, View Outstanding Bills, we only have the one that I hadn't marked as paid yet remain as outstanding. The key here is the account balance is 0. If the balance were the same as the amount due, then we might be looking at a missing payment or a duplicate bill problem of some kind. We'd have to dive into that a little deeper, but in this case, the account balance tells us everything we need to know. All right, folks, it's 20 minutes after. I'm finished talking about what I'm discussing here. If you do have correct questions, please type those into the questions portion of the control panel there. I'll see what I can't do to get those answered. Again, I do ask that you do keep them topical, meaning about our corrections. It looks like we've had some folks kind of darting out already here. Maybe I was thorough enough that folks don't have any questions here. Again, this video presentation will be available on our YouTube channel by Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Where do we find a copy of the text of this webinar? Wendy. Oh, you mean the material I was using? Yeah, it's not available in the webinar event, Wendy. It's only available when you purchase one of the Church Windows workbooks. Let me point out where you can find those. Yeah, if you go to the Church Windows website and we go down to our workbooks page here, you can order the workbooks online here, but this one is part of A202, which is right down here. I think they're $12, I think, something like that if you get the PDF option on it, the file that you can send over there. You're welcome, Cynthia. Thank you. But that's where that material is. That's what we're basing. We're kind of restructuring our webinars and our presentation of these, and these are all pretty much being all taken from our workbooks that are available for purchase. So if you want the written presentation or view of this, we would recommend purchasing that book. All right, so it looks like, again, folks are diving out pretty quickly here. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. All right, well, I'm going to assume then nobody's typing in any questions. Again, and folks, we hope to see you at another Church Windows User Group webinar event. I'll go ahead and end the webinar for everybody, and we look forward to seeing you at another webinar. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.